India is a very complex country, so complex that it's very difficult to understand even after 2 decades of study of the Indian market. That's one of the reasons why, a multinational policy or bringing in a standardized Western product and taking it out there into the great Indian market, letting it loose, just doesn't work. Because India is not a plain vanilla market. India is a very complex market which says plain vanilla is too ordinary for me. Most companies tend to want to customize to Indian markets. Any kind of a company which enters, let's take a shoe for instance, let's take a New Balance shoe which you bring out from here in the US and you take it out into Bangalore and launch it, take it from me, if it's a non-customized option, it's going to remain niche forever. It's not going to run. And therefore, it's very important to understand the intricacies of the Indian and run with that intricacy. I've done a study across 6 different countries trying to see what types of people exist in different countries. In cities, I've gone to Boston and I've found in Boston there are only 7 types of people, which means that if you have 7 marketing appeals, you'll get away with touching every single marketing consumer you can touch. I've gone to Tokyo and Osaka. I found only 2 types of people, which means that Tokyo and Osaka people, Japanese people, are that much, clonal. I've gone to New Delhi, one single city, 236 types of people. I think a bigger Indian city is 236 types of people. Let me go to a smaller town. I went into a smaller town called Bhopal, and in Bhopal I found 411 types of people. So, India is complex. One big mistake most people make is take an iron box approach to the Indian market and say, let me iron this market out with one big iron box. No, India needs multiple sets of iron boxes. Each iron box needs to be very specific, segmented, and purposeful. In a bit to leverage the potential that is represented by India, every marketing company needs to be amoebic in its format and not rigid in its format. Most multinational companies that come with the ethos that is Western, and by Western I mean the United States of America, I mean the UK, I mean Europe, when they enter a market which they consider a developing market like India, they come in with this ethos to say that I have rigid policies. I'm rigid about my brand name must not change, I'm rigid about my brand color, my logo, everything is sacrosanct. When you enter the Indian market, you cannot have rigidity in mind. You need to be very amoebic in your approach to the Indian market. You need to put in that toehold into the Indian market, understand the way it shapes, and whatever way it responds, you change as well. Any amoebic player who has shown this capability of doing things differently, basis market stimuli, has done well. But anyone who's been rigid has failed. Typically when I look at India and I look at the market research and marketing research challenge, I typically advise one thing to companies, and that is to say that, hey, listen, don't get besotted by large numbers in your market research. But what I do in my company, for instance, we just touch 40 individuals, but we research them to death over 3 to 5 years, the same sets of consumers. At the end of the day, whatever we have, we extrapolate. The idea is simply this. In a market the size of 1.2 billion people, which is India, any market research that you do is shallow. Even if you do 20,000 people, 20,000 divided by 1.2 billion into 100, you know what a nano percentage that is. And therefore, my recommendation is don't go for size in terms of numbers, but go for depth. I would advise the entire student community at Tuck to say that India is an opportunity that cannot be ignored. And this goes for an Indian who's studying at Tuck, and it goes for a non-Indian who's studying at Tuck. Why so? Because the future markets of the world are emerging in India. I would definitely and vociferously say that the consumption capitals of the world are shifting. The consumption capitals of the world in the old days, and by old days I mean 10 years ago, were the United States of America, were UK, and was Europe. Today the consumption capitals of the world, at least give us another 2 years, it's India and China. Therefore, anybody in marketing has to focus on the market. And the market is no longer in the production states. The market is elsewhere. And the elsewhere markets are India and China. And that's one of the reasons why India is an opportunity that just cannot be flossed. It has to be studied, understand it with humility. That's very, very important. And once having understood it, go out there and capture your rightful market share. This goes for American companies. We have seen the United States of America going through a bit of a recessionary trend. We have seen degrowth in the recent years of about 1.2 to 1.3%. The economy has bounced back, yet we are saying that we're going to be growing at about 1.6% in the United States of America. Any market that grows at 1.6% in GDP terms is possibly not a very robust consumption market. You have to look at a robust consumption market, and the robust consumption market is China, which according to the WMC report says it's going to grow at 9.6%, and it's going to be India, which is going to be growing at 9.1%. So I think India and China just cannot be ignored.